Hey guys, what's going on, and welcome back to the Wilson Auto Detailing community. You are a little zoomed in there. Let's fix that. There we go. You guys, behind me is the Ford F-350 huge truck that we are doing a two-stage paint correction on and applying an all-new ceramic coating that I've never shown on the channel, but now we're on day 2, video 2, and this is the first stage of the paint correction. We're not only going to be walking through the products I'm using, the strategies, the techniques with the paint correction that I'm using, but we're also walking through the business behind this, the way I communicate this with customers, and we're doing another giveaway. I know you're thinking, Luke, how many things can you give away for free? But yes. So what are we giving away in this video, you might be wondering? Well, here it is. We are giving away a gallon size of the Renegade Knockout Degreaser. Yes, this is the degreaser that I was using on the sidewalls of the tires, the bed of the truck, the undercarriage, and I talked about it a lot in the previous video. I can dilute it around 3 to 1 and get a really good result on these things that I'm cleaning that get a ton of grease and grime from the roads. So if you want to enter that giveaway, watch the rest of this video and we will talk about it. Now let's go ahead and get into the paint correction. Now, the very first thing that we are doing here, guys, is putting a second coating of the Renegade all-terrain landslide tire coating on the sidewalls, as well as the appropriate part of the wheel wells. Like I said, the first coating has already dried the previous 24 hours, so now it's time to put that second coating on. That's what I like to do in these situations where our end goal is ceramic coating. We want ceramic level protection or longevity and durability on every area, including the wheel wells and the sidewalls of the tires. So this is going to have another 48 hours to 72 hours to sit completely before this vehicle is driven again. Now, before we jump into the paint correction talk here, I want to make sure you guys go below in the YouTube description box and grab my free guide to starting your auto detailing business for under $500. In this guide, I lay out the top 10 tools and products that every single detailer needs in order to get started, so you don't have to go worry about wasting money and time on things that do not work. Now, in addition to that, before we ever do any paint correction whatsoever, we have to make sure that the paint has been prepared with some sort of paint prep. This is Optimum Paint Prep. It is my favorite paint preparation chemical that I've used for years now, actually. Generally, a lot of guys will use different industrial grade cleaners, but also things like isopropyl alcohol, IPA washes. The reason why I don't suggest, at least from a first choice point of view, using an IPA wash is because it is not the best. It is not going to strip off everything, and without getting into the details about this, it does have a tendency to do something called swelling the paint, which is a little bit too detailed for this video, but just take my word for it. Using a paint prep like Optimum Paint Prep is going to be what you want to do. I'm going to be using this on all the glass paint surfaces and even the black trim if I need to, if there's any overspray on some black trim. It can be used on plastic, chrome, clear coat, paint, glass, all of it. So I don't have to worry about it getting on any of these surfaces. But essentially, the reason why this is so necessary is because we have been using all sorts of chemicals on this paint to wash it, strip it, iron removers, car soaps, foam soap. It's got overspray from the tire coating on certain areas. We want to make sure that this paint is naked, more or less, before we actually start correcting. So once we've done that and taken the time to make sure it is prepared properly, it's time to start correcting the paint. Now let's get into the details of what I'm using and why I'm using it and how I'm using it, because it does get pretty detailed from here on out. The compound that I'm using in this stage 1 of the stage 2 paint correction, or 2-stage paint correction that I am going to be doing here, is a compound from Sonax called their Cut Max compound. I'm also using a Lake Country microfiber cutting pad. Now, it's really important to understand that these polishes, the 2 polishes that I'm using, and the first one here being the Cut Max, the second one being the same from Sonax, but it's called their Flawless Finish or their Perfect Finish. These are relatively new compounds and polishes for me in my world. They're not necessarily my go-tos, and I've been experimenting with them over the past 2 months. This is a really great situation for me to use them and experiment with them. In fact, on this front right fender, this was my test spot before I decided to go all in with both this compound and polish for the rest of this truck. So you're about to see me not just use the Cut Max polish for this fender, but you're also going to see me switch to the Flawless Finish, the Perfect Finish on the fender as well, with a finishing black foam pad polishing pad from Lake Country as well. Because essentially I took about 20 to 25 minutes working on this fender in different ways to figure out if this combination of not just compound and polish, but also these two pads were what I wanted to use for this video based on the results I'm getting. So there's a few things to break down here in some pretty good detail. Number one, the Cut Max Sonax compound that I'm using in order to compound this paint in this stage 1 of the two-stage paint correction is a fantastic product. It, however, is not a product that I necessarily suggest for guys who are just getting into the paint correction world, don't have a ton of experience, not exactly sure what they're doing, simply because it did take a little bit for me to kind of mess around, use different paint correction techniques, pressure, sort of patterns in order to understand the best way to use this in order to get the best results. Of course, in every single paint correction situation, there will be slight differences and variability in the way you're using things in order to get the best results, because essentially paint is different from car to car. However, this one is a very, maybe what I would call advanced compound, one that I would use for guys who are more experienced, because I got incredible results by the end of this thing, which we're going to see later on. But after the two-stage paint correction, we basically had 100% of swirls completely removed from this paint, and I was projecting between 85 and 95% removed. So I was unbelievably impressed with this particular compound polish and pad combination. Now, in addition to that, like you see in the video right now, I've got the black finishing foam pad from Lake Country with the Sonax Flawless Finish, Perfect Finish polish in order to bring out that gloss, get rid of any sort of hologramming that happened from that microfiber pad, and it did it perfectly. This fender was a great test spot when I finished with this particular pad, and I saw the fender under the right lighting, under the sun as well. It was very obvious this is what I wanted to continue with. Now, as we go throughout this video, you're going to see me using some different paint correction techniques, different kind of movements, patterns, and while this is something that's pretty difficult to communicate through a screen, paint correction tends to be something that's much more easy to train people on in person. I want to nonetheless do my best to communicate what I did in this video, why I did it, and maybe it'll help you guys out. So for the rest of this video, you're going to see me using the Cut Max compound and the microfiber 6-inch Lake Country pad. We're going to be digging into this paint and removing almost all of the swirls. Now, the main paint correction technique, you might say, or strategy that I used in this video is actually a strategy I got from a guy named Jason Kilmer when we were in Chicago last year. It's something that I've been experimenting with on and off, and he actually made the comment to me, I wouldn't even show this on social media because people would be so blown away by it because they would consider it too aggressive or something like that. But nonetheless, I want to talk about it because it has been a technique in these situations that has helped me a lot. And for those of you who don't know Jason Kilmer, he's just one of the respected voices in the detailing world regarding paint correction. Now, in this particular video, the scene that you're seeing here, I'm doing some pretty basic things. However, one of the main things that I did here that I'm talking about getting from Jason Kilmer in Chicago last year is this idea of putting kind of a hyper amount of pressure on the paint really quickly, letting up at a really high level, pulling the pad back across the paint that you just kind of pressured down on, and doing that a couple times as you see how the paint reacts. So one of the things that I saw with this type of paint in particular, this compound and microfiber pad combination with that technique, was that after 2 to 3 passes of that, which took maybe 5, 8, 10 seconds, the paint was corrected at a very high level, which probably speaks to the softness of the clear coat as well as the kind of efficiency of this particular strategy. Now, in between passes or in between panels, one of the simplest way to clean a microfiber pad that's just this simple, really straightforward way is simply to spray some distilled water on it, shake it off, put it on level 6, let it spin out, and use a clean microfiber towel to brush up those microfibers once again. About every 6 to 8 panels on this particular job, I would go ahead and actually just remove the pad. I have 2 different pads that look just like this one, so I was switching out between both of them, not every time, but every 6 to 8 times, and I would have them both get actually completely washed out about every 6 to 8 times, so we just start fresh every 6 to 8 panels. But then in between each panel, I would go ahead and spray a little bit of distilled water, spin it out, brush it out with a microfiber towel. That's one of the easiest ways to do it. It doesn't really need to be more complicated than that, especially when you're cleaning it throughout. You can see in this part of the video the strategy I'm talking about. You can see the heavy amount of pressure I put down on kind of the maybe moving left on the paint. Then as I come back, letting up at a really high level. There's going to be specific areas around the paint where we tilt the pad, we tilt the polisher, and we focus all of the friction and all of the pressure on that quarter part of the polisher. So I'm going around the handle, and that tiny little sliver of the panel there is getting all the friction. It's getting all the weight of the polisher. When I'm going across the character lines, the body lines, up there on the upper part of the panel of this passenger side door, that's getting all the pressure, all the friction as well. I'm making sure that I'm checking the paint in between each pass at a really high level, making sure that the light looks and kind of is reflecting those scratches that I need to make sure I'm seeing. And because I did this practice round and this kind of a little bit of study and research with the fender side, I know the expectation I can have with the hologramming and the leftover imperfections after I get done with this first stage, and I can be confident that they're going to be removed based on what I'm going to do in the next stage tomorrow when I bring it back with that perfect, flawless finish from Sonax. So that's kind of what I'm looking for with the light. I'm looking for that level of hologramming that I actually want to be there, because it's one of those it gets worse before it gets better situations. Because I know how these polishes react and these compounds react with this paint, there's a certain level of hologramming I want to see and a certain kind of hologram pattern I want to see in order to basically give me the go-ahead of saying, yes, this polish was super aggressive, this compound was super aggressive in the way that I needed it to be in this stage 1, but I know I can actually let that hologram sit there until tomorrow when I come back with this second stage. It's going to be completely removed. Now, I want you guys to see this kind of up and down motion that I'm using here to get in between these character lines, these body lines. You're going to see that in basically all 4 of these doors that have this same exact pattern. This really quick up and down motion where the pad is tilted downwards. It's all the friction is centered on that 25% of the bottommost part of the pad, and I'm getting in that character line. There's no hard and fast rule with paint correction where I'm going to be doing the same thing every single time. That's the beauty of kind of practicing this art more or less. Now, before I go any further, let's do a quick announcement. All right, guys, I guess now would be as good of time as any to announce the winner of the Renegade Iron Remover giveaway, Austin Arnold. In the comments below of the previous video, video number 1, you are the winner. So just make sure to email me at the support@wilsonautodetailing.com email, and we will get that Renegade Iron Remover to you. Congratulations. Let's get back to the video. Now, like I said, there's no hard and fast rule in the paint correction world where I'm going to be doing the same exact thing every single time. So you can see on this particular part of the panel, I'm doing this high pressure, release, come back, high pressure, release, come back, then switching to this up, down, up, down, up, down, depending on the nature of the beast, where I'm at on the paint. Now, I'm skipping around the truck a little bit. I'm not showing you guys every single panel because, let's face it, how entertaining is really watching a 6-hour paint correction job going to be? It's not going to be that entertaining. So I'm skipping around the car just a bit. But one of the things that you guys can see here, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that has to remain true across all paint correction for all time, is you have to adjust the strategy and adjust the approach depending on what you're working on and what you're trying to accomplish. Here, essentially, the best way to say it is the Cut Max Sonax polish coupled with the microfiber Lake Country cutting pad did an incredible job at biting into the paint, reducing the swirls by like 80 to 85%, leaving a hair of hologramming behind, but with that finishing pad, that perfect flawless finish not only took out that last 15% of swirls, but also removed all of that hologramming and restored a very high level of gloss as well. Now, one of the things you see is that there was one area that I was taping off. There are other areas I'm not taping off. Regarding the dusting of this compound, it does not dust at a high level whatsoever. The follow-up that I'm going to be using tomorrow, the perfect flawless finish, dusts like crazy, but we'll talk about that later. This compound does not dust basically at all, and it was extremely easy also to wipe off of any area where that pad overlapped just a bit. So that rubber gasketing that runs around the windows, any black trim that it happened to be on, with a little isopropyl alcohol IPA F-350 wash, it was extremely easy to pull off of that black trim or that rubber. Anything that it was on didn't stain it whatsoever. So that's why I'm not worried about it. The other reason I'm not taping things off is simply because if it got in any crack or any little seal, between the doors, it was extremely easy to pull off in like 5 seconds or less. So the point is, you just have to run a sort of time cost analysis. It doesn't make sense for me to go around taping off these areas when it's not necessary, because the amount of time it takes to tape is so exponentially longer than the amount of time it takes to clean up these small areas where I need to clean it up. Here's another great look at this high pressure release sort of paint correction strategy you see here. By the way, guys, this does not always work in other situations. One of the reasons why it worked here is because there was such a high level of surface defects that needed to be addressed. It just took a lot of pressure to really see this compound work. And sometimes when I say things like this compound is like more of an advanced compound, it's not something I would necessarily suggest for beginners. The reason I say that, and this is kind of hard to word because you can't really see it in the camera, but the reason I say that is just because I had to be a little finicky, a little tricky with this compound to get the results I wanted. But when I got in that sweet spot and when I found the way I needed to maneuver around this, it worked incredibly. So it's one of those things where it took me a second to get over the hump to figure out how I wanted to maneuver this in order to get the results I wanted. But once I was in that, once again, that sweet spot, that honey hole, it was just unbelievable results on every single solitary panel. There's a few surface water spots as well, even just from yesterday, that came out very, very quickly in addition to all of these defects. But apart from that, I was unbelievably impressed both with this polish and with this pad as well. Now, everybody, I am not going to leave you hanging. So as promised, if you want to enter the giveaway to win the Knockout Renegade gallon-sized degreaser, all you have to do is go below in the YouTube description box below this video. Hit the Instagram link that'll take you to my Instagram handle. All you have to do is follow Wilson Auto Detailing on Instagram. Number 2, leave a comment below this video and tell me your favorite compound and polish combination. And number 3, hit the thumbs up on this video if you like it, because it will help it rank in the YouTube algorithm and get out to more people. So number 1, follow me on Instagram, leave a comment below with your favorite compound and polish combination, and number 3, make sure to like this video. Guys, leave any questions below in the comments below the video, because I am always going to help answer paint correction questions. And now, without wasting any more time, let's sign off. Alright guys, that is it for the Day 2 Stage 1 paint correction. Once again, follow those instructions if you want to enter the giveaway. If you want to grab my free guide to starting your auto detailing business for under $500, which I would highly suggest because I lay out the top 10 tools and products that I use and that I think are just fundamental to any detailing business, so that you don't have to go waste your money and time trying to find things that work or maybe don't work. Then go in the YouTube description box below, get that link, put your email in, and we will send it to you for free. As always, guys, if you want to get the list of tools and products that I used in this video, those will be in the very same place. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, from Luke here at Wilson Auto Detailing, keep working hard, and I'll see you guys in the next video.